views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Daren, Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough as well as across New York City. Coming up, we go front and center discussing the recent legislation signed to expand whistleblower rights in New York State. Then afterwards, November is National Veterans and Military Family Appreciation Month. We'll learn about VNSNY's Veterans Program. Then you'll meet and hear about how the Salvation Army's Greater New York Division is providing meals to the community as well as combating hunger. And we'll sit down with two directors presenting their films at this year's annual African Diaspora International Film Festival. And later on, we'll discuss about medical malpractice and negligence and when people can actually file a lawsuit. And then finally, we'll learn some tips on how to incorporate healthier food during this upcoming Thanksgiving holiday. We've got some details coming up later on. So stay tuned because all this and much more is heading your way. Right now, we're officially open. I am Daren, Jaime. Today is Wednesday, November 24th. Yes, it is Thanksgiving week. You're watching Open, the show that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV set. We also want to thank our viewers who are watching on Manhattan Neighborhood Network as Open is being broadcast live on our MNN channels, simultaneously, I should say. And then also we want to let you know how you can stay connected to us. There's a couple of ways that you can do that. First, you can get us on our website at bronxnet.org, and of course, on our social media platforms at BronxNet TV. A lot has certainly been going on through the past week. Can't take you through everything, but we can go over a couple of things with our Bronx updates. We start off with vaccination news. All adult New Yorkers are effectively eligible to receive a coronavirus booster dose under a new health advisory. Now, the advisory issued by Health Commissioner Dave Chosky states vaccine providers will allow New Yorkers to decide their own risk of exposure to COVID-19 and allow them to seek a booster shot so long as they're 18 years or older and it's been at least 6 months since they've received the Moderna or Pfizer doses and 2 months since the Johnson & Johnson dose. Now, roughly 630,000 New Yorkers so far have received a booster dose of vaccine. Those recipients mostly consisted of people 65 and up, those with underlying health conditions, or those with increased risk. That is all the time we have for our Bronx updates, but guess what? We are not out of show. Got a full show for you up ahead on this Thanksgiving edition of Open. We want you to stay with us. We're coming right back right after this. In recent news, New York State Governor Kathy Hochul introduced into law enhanced protections for private sector employees who allege violations against their employer. Now, the law, rule, or regulation will take effect 90 days after its enactment or on January 26, 22. Now, the question is, what does this actually mean for employees and what does this mean for employers? Joining us now and sharing a little bit more information is the founding partner at Boyd Law Group, Patrick Boyd. And Patrick, good to have you here with us.
Nice to be with you again. How are you?
I'm good. Let's go front and center with this here. So as we said, we've got this new law that actually goes into effect. Let's first scale down what this law actually is.
Sure. So it's New York Labor Law Section 740. That's been a law that had a limited protection for whistleblowers and has been in effect for quite some time. Fundamentally, there were some parts of the law that were inadequate, and labor and employment law attorneys had been lobbying for and pushing for a change to the law for quite some time, both because it's important just to make the workplace more fair, and also, quite frankly, because a lot of states have already made improvements. So New York was a bit behind the times in terms of where the law stood until this most recent change.
Yeah, and so this most recent change comes in, and let's walk through what this law will actually do. So if you're an employee, how does this work out for you?
Sure. So the concern used to be that if you were an employee, and let's say you saw something that you thought was improper in the workplace, perhaps an aspect of patient care that wasn't being managed correctly, perhaps the books and records and finances weren't being handled correctly. It used to be the case that if you had a concern about that and complained, you could be fired, and the remedies for you if you were fired for reporting it were very, very limited. This law changed that significantly. It expanded the amount of workers that are now protected and encouraged, if you will, to come forward if they see something wrong in the workplace. And it also made it easier for workers to come forward. It used to be that the worker complaining pretty much had to be right. That is, they had to see a violation, suspect a violation, and know the violation was occurring, or they wouldn't have protection. Now they just have to have a reasonable belief that what they see going on is improper. And if they're fired for reporting it, they are protected and have legal claims to pursue in court.
And this law comes in as a result of some of the consequences that employees have actually faced while confronting their employer for what we know as quote unquote whistleblowing. So for someone that's out there right now who may not be so familiar, what were some of the things that employees were actually experiencing that actually led to this legislation coming into action?
I think the fundamental truth was that the way the law sat before, there was a chilling effect, okay? If you saw this patient isn't being charted correctly and cared for, if you saw my employer isn't reporting the finances and success of the business correctly, and you complained about that, or you had that concern, it used to be that those people would call me and say, "What do I do, Patrick?" And I'd say, "Well, you can complain if you want to, but unless you're sure for certain that what you see is unlawful, you can get fired and you're not going to have any protection for that." And of course, what is that going to do to the average employee? The average employee is going to say, "My job is too important. I'm not willing to take that risk. I could be wrong. I might be wrong. I don't want to run that risk or concern." Now, employees will have a far better and broader protection. If they see something wrong, they should speak out. They can speak out. And if they get fired for it, we're going to be able to help them and make sure that they get the compensation they deserve for being unlawfully fired. That's a huge change in terms of the impact on those workers who we want to count on to speak out if they see something going wrong in the workplace.
And so the law doesn't really take effect until January or after enhanced. Let's get clarity here.
That's right. So it was signed October 28. It will be effective January 22nd, 22. And there's always a little bit of nuance in terms of when a law goes into effect and whether it would protect conduct before or after. We're still going to have to knit that out in the legislation, but for sure and ultimately, the protection is a substantial one. It does, by the way, impose some requirements on employers too.
Yeah, and let's talk about employers for a minute. And employers have been guilty of retaliation, much of why the law was actually enacted. And so we talk about retaliation. What are some of the ways that employers were actually retaliating?
Decide if they didn't like the whistleblower, they could decide to demote him or her. They could decide to deny them a bonus. They could decide, of course, to suspend them or to fire them. Those are all the kinds of retaliatory acts that are now unlawful. to be taken against a whistleblower. An important addition as well is an employer can't threaten as to the immigration status of a worker. So if you're a worker who's concerned about your status, your immigration status, you can complain and you don't have fear, or you don't have to be worried that your immigration status is going to be something used against you and to jeopardize your standing in this country.
Yeah. And so as we see things moving forward, talk to us about where you see this whole employment thing playing out. We've got right now a work shortage with employees, and a lot of companies are really falling back, and we're, big time retailers that say we can't even put stuff out there because of a lack of shortage of employees. How do we see this employee whole thing, employer relationship playing out in the year 2022?
Well, I mean, I think that's a very good macroeconomic observation. I think the truth of the matter is that workers are being more selective about the jobs they're choosing. And I think that's good. And I think even the labor studies show that if people are selective and choose the right job, then they're likely to have longer term enjoyment and success. So that's what we want. That's how the economy is going to thrive. What this is really about, Daren, I think is another additional benefit and accommodation and empowerment of the workforce. Workers now can come in understanding that they can monitor what's going on in their workplace, monitor the integrity of their workplace, and report it if they see something that's wrong. So hopefully this just makes for a better, more collaborative employer-employee relationship, because most employers want to do the right thing as well, of course. But the workers going in there are going to have a little bit more of a say in the workplace and the ethical and integrity in terms of the way that workplace is functioning, and I think that's great. There is one notable observation I'd like to offer here, which is that in this particular law, while employees now have a far greater protection than they had in the past, if it is found in court that an employee complained and had no basis in law or fact for making that complaint, the court can award attorney's fees to the employer. So there is a balancing in the legislation. That is, there's more encouragement and protection for workers to come forward. But if the worker is absolutely pursuing a frivolous claim, there is a way for the employer to defend themselves and to have their attorney's fees covered, which is, I think, supposed to balance against the frivolous lawsuit. You don't see that all the time in employment law here in these United States. So it's an interesting legislative change from what most employment laws have, but it's a notable one. And overall, I think the legislation is going to be substantial and positive.
Yeah, definitely. You can't tie up an already burdened court system with a frivolous lawsuit. No way about that without having to deal with some sort of recourse. Patrick Boyd, thank you for joining us here on Open, giving us the latest update, and appreciate having you, brother.
My pleasure as always.
All righty. Well, listen, if you want more information, don't hesitate to go to theboydlawgroup.com, and there you can find out more information about Patrick and the practice and what he does when he's not here with us. All righty. Listen, we got more shows. Stay with us. Open continues coming up right after this.
We know that people are dealing with the health crisis, but there's also a lot of food insecurity.
We're giving out healthy food options, and that's what's key here.
If you're a senior, you have a disability, they'll actually deliver meals to you.
The residents are anxious, they're worried, they're scared, they want to be tested.
When things were happening in our community and we couldn't get the help.
There's almost a presumption of criminality that attaches to your skin color.
The site will prioritize those who are at highest risk in the population.
If you feel symptoms and you'd like to visit one of these COVID-19 testing sites here in the Bronx, you may call the State Health Department's hotline.
Important to note about this site is no reservations are needed. This is a walk-in clinic.
A lot of us are out of work and looking for something to do.
We have the machinery and the skills to make large scales of these masks and gowns.
Take care of your people. It's going to go way further than we actually can understand.
Right now, employees like myself are just adjusting to the new reality.
And welcome back to the show. November has been declared as National Veterans and Military Families Month, and the VNSNY Veterans Programs provides veterans as well as their loved ones with a skilled veteran liaison who actually will assist and guide them with accessing the many benefits and services available through the Veterans Administration. And joining us now to share a little bit more information and give us some details into this program, we are pleased to be joined by the director of the VNSNY Veterans Program, Joseph Vitti. And Joseph, good to have you.
Thank you for having me here today. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your service as well.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Talk to me a little bit about this, because we talk about November. It is definitely an opportunity for us to really highlight veterans. We know that veterans don't necessarily get the credit, the recognition that they deserve. But one of the challenges I think that veterans have is really after returning back home, after serving, just really being able to make the connection and the reintegration into society. So share with us a little bit about the programs that you have that are really being able to assist veterans.
Sure. So here over at the Visit Nurse Service of New York, we conduct, in our veterans program, we conduct a lot of community outreach and assistance for veterans who need home health care in the comfort of their homes, or also for veterans who may be facing end-of-life situations, who are in need of hospice care, that we can help provide hospice in the comfort of their own homes with their family and their friends next to them. And we have a terrific group of clinicians and social workers to assist in that quality and affordable, accessible delivery of care. And within the VNSNY Veterans Program, we have a team of terrific liaisons who I can't say are veterans themselves, or served as civilians working with the Department of Veteran Affairs, or as clinicians at Walter Reed National Military Hospital down in Washington, D.C., who conduct this outreach and this patient advocacy to assist veterans in the communities or wherever they may call home. So we help them navigate an often complex and VA healthcare system so that they can understand and receive their supplemental VA benefits that can coexist with their Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurance benefits, to really maximize their patient experience and help address astronomical healthcare expenses that, unfortunately, healthcare is the #1 reason for bankruptcy in our nation, and not that anyone should have to experience it, but veterans especially who served our country so honorably. So a lot of them really don't realize these benefits that are out there for themselves and their families to help overcome these challenging situations.
Yeah, you say that a lot of them really don't know, and sometimes there's this reluctance really to go ahead and receive services. Why would you, can you give us a little insight as to why sometimes veterans have this reluctance in terms of accepting services or partaking?
Yes, great question. I think there's two answers to that question. I think there are common misconceptions. What I often hear is, oh, I'm not eligible. I wasn't a certain rank. I was only a cook in the Army. I dealt with the Pulse Service. I didn't do this. I wasn't Special Forces. I wasn't in combat. And so our team, that those are common misconceptions. You don't, whether you have an honorable discharge and these other certain determinants of where of when you served and everything else. I like to call the VA a historical based healthcare system. That's why we do the outreach to a lot of community based organizations, veteran service organizations such as American Legions and VFWs, for example. We help them overcome these common misconceptions, because VA benefits really do vary from case by case basis. What I may be able to do for one veteran patient is totally different in a multitude of ways for another veteran patient. It has to deal with what era you served in, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, or peacetime. If you are exposed to certain environmental elements such as Agent Orange, that we see, unfortunately, such a number of different presumptive conditions affiliated with that exposure. Atomic bomb radiation exposure, for example, stationed in Japan following the atomic bomb droppings. And all of these have different conditions. So we help puzzle together someone's current their health diagnoses, and if deemed service connected related to their military time, help them navigate those supplemental VA benefits. And even if their conditions are misfortune and have nothing to do with their military experience, that does not mean that there aren't VA healthcare services out there There are funeral benefits, there are survivor benefits, there are death benefits out there, which is not the most pleasant conversation to have, but very important to have these advance directives and to help these families so that they're not faced in that very stressful emotional situation. They're not faced with these things. So we also hear another systemic issue, I'll take care of it myself. We're taught in the military to be very strong and selfless people, and it's very hard to ask for help. And we're taught in the military to never leave a fallen comrade. As an Army veteran, that was ingrained in me, and I'm guilty of it myself. It's that much ingrained in us to never leave a fallen comrade. But our mission here is to never leave a fallen comrade in the military and after the military. And that's the principle that we bring here, is that it's okay to ask for help. We're still here to help you. We're here to help you and your family. It's okay to ask for help. And there are a lot of us out there who need help. And there are a lot of us out there who do possess this technical expertise, who are able and willing to help you. And they're right here in our own community here at the Visit Nurse Service of New York.
Well, got to leave it there, Joseph, but thank you so much. Again, I think a lot of people will now know that, yes, there are some services that are available. And like you said, we are here to help. Thank you for your service before. Thank you for your service during. Thank you for your service right now. And just want to let you know that we really appreciate you, as November is, of course, our Veterans Appreciation Month as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and happy Veterans Day to everybody out there. Thank you.
All righty. Well, I want to let you know now, if you want more information, please visit their website, VNSNY.org. And then also on the phone, you can give them a call at 646-983-3999. We encourage you to stay connected to us. We've got more show. Open continues coming up right after this. And welcome back. The Salvation Army Greater New York Division is expecting a record number of people coming out into its metro area centers for groceries and or meals. Now, since COVID-19 first hit in the March of 2020, the Salvation Army Greater New York Division has provided more than 7.8 million meals to those persons in need. Joining us now to share and break down some details for us is the General Secretary at Salvation Army Greater New York Division, Major Kevin Stoops. And Major Stoops, good to have you back here, I should say, on Open. Last time wasn't so much of a good situation, but now this time here for the holidays.
It's good to be with you again.
Yeah, I think last time we talked, we were under tougher circumstances, but now as we prepare for the holidays, it's a good time. And then, in some ways we say it's the best of times and it's the worst of times, because as I said in the lead, an anticipated record number of people actually coming out needing a meal and needing some food.
Yeah, the food insecurity has not diminished since this pandemic and in the aftermath of the pandemic. We continue to see long lines at our Salvation Army centers for either food pantry or a hot meal during these days. And as we approach the holidays this year, interesting, a new factor thrown in with the increased prices in food. We're seeing that people just don't have enough resources financially to provide the meals that they need for the holiday season. So the Salvation Army is being called upon more than ever.
Mm-hmm. And so we know that Thanksgiving is coming up right around the corner. Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about what the plans are to assist the community during Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Thanksgiving is a very interesting time because in a lot of people's minds, it's the holiday that's skipped. We go from Halloween to Christmas, and that's seen in our stores and in our commercials on television. But Thanksgiving is the holiday where people want to gather with their family and friends and just have a feast. Well, nothing more disappointing than wanting to be with your family and friends, but not having the ability to put the feast on. And so in a very real way, the Salvation Army wants to be part of promoting that family environment, the opportunity to gather with friends around a meal. And so many people come to the Salvation Army saying, hey, is there anything that you're doing to help us for Thanksgiving? Every single unit that we have in our region, all 38 of them, is providing some form of Thanksgiving assistance to people in their communities, whether that's a Thanksgiving food box, whether that's a turkey giveaway program, or whether it's a sit-down hot Thanksgiving dinner, either the days before the holiday or on the day itself. So we're seeing a high demand, and we anticipate that more than ever are going to come to Salvation Army looking for a meal at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and I know that in order to do the work that you do, volunteers are definitely needed. What's it been like, given the fact that there's so many people in need? How have you seen the response when it comes to volunteerism?
Yeah, I think the pandemic sort of gave people an excuse not to volunteer, not wanting to get out, not sort of losing that rhythm, losing that habit of really engaging with organizations such as the Salvation Army to help people. So I would hope that this reminder today even would sort of activate that desire in their spirit to just give back to their community, be involved. We could use the help in packing those food back boxes, whether it's cooking a turkey and bringing it down to the Salvation Army, or just being some of the people that hand out the meals on the day that they're given out. So volunteerism is still needed. And we hope that people will respond in a positive way this holiday season.
Yeah. What's it been like for you? I mean, obviously, you've had your hands full. First, the pandemic, then you've got hurricanes to contend with, and if now you got the holidays to contend with. What's it been like for you and your staff?
Yeah, I tell you what, we're a little stretched. It's interesting because the pandemic had two factors on our people, on Salvation Army officers as well as the staff at Salvation Army units. First of all, it's physically demanding. We needed to get the food out to people. That we did that by delivery, by grab and go meals, by food boxes. That was daily, and that was every single day on the front lines, making sure people that were experiencing food insecurity or even experiencing homelessness really had their needs met. But there's a mental toll. There's an assault on our mental capacity, from mental health to depression to discouragement, that really played a role as well. And there's no relief. Now we go right from that into that hurricane that hit us in the fall, and now into the busy holiday season. So I would say that our people are probably a little weary, both mentally as well as physically. But I know that they're all ready to go. We've had meetings leading up to the beginning of our Salvation Army fundraising campaign, the kettles on the street with the bell ringers, and the assistance that's needed this season. And I think we're ready to go. I just hope that people are patient when they realize that we've been at it for quite a while now.
Yeah, yeah. And talk about being at it for quite a while. One of the people who are at it for quite a while has literally been the not-for-profit sector. And they've been tremendously hit. Can you give us a little insight as to your thoughts as to how the not-for-profits have actually had to deal with this challenge?
Yeah, they are called upon more than ever. The not-for-profit sector is one that doesn't necessarily receive assistance from any government support, or that way we really are dependent upon our donors and people that are just supporting us through their volunteer and their financial donations. So I think that the challenge is greater than ever. I also think that surprisingly, this season with there's a supply shortage. I said this to someone the other day, and it's true that this is the prime time for us to receive financial support. One of the ways we do that is through sending letters in the mail so people can respond. Do you realize that there's a supply shortage of paper and glue? Glue. Wow. You say, why does that play a factor? Well, the adhesive on the envelope is hard to get. So our mail house that puts all those mailings together and puts them in the mail is saying that he's going to be delayed by at least a week to 10 days in getting that out. Well, that kind of a message is concerning to an organization like the Salvation Army, because that's one of the primary ways that we receive financial support. And so the other way that's a shortage is there's a toy shortage. And so when we are looking to give toys to thousands of children this season, and we have a lot of people that help us do that, but when they go to the store or go on online to look for various toys and they're not available, then the dreams of a child get dashed just because there's a shortage of that supply. So I hope people will look early for toys. They'll grab the angel tree tag that the Salvation Army has. They'll look at the wish of the child and they'll act early. Don't wait till the last minute this season, just simply because of the supply shortage. That's a couple factors that it's affecting us at the Salvation Army and must be affecting other nonprofits as well.
Yeah, I know for a fact that a lot of people have been adversely affected by this. I mean, even when we talk about Thanksgiving itself, you know, we know that there's been talk of the turkey shortage and those people who want wine with their meal. We know there's a wine shortage. So definitely a lot going on that we need to pay particular attention to. But Major Kevin Stoops, got to thank you and all the great work that you and the Salvation Army are doing to provide because of and also in spite of. Thanks a lot for being with us.
Thank you, Daren. Appreciate it.
Definitely. I want to let you know now, if you do want some more information, please visit their website at salvationarmyny.org and then follow them on social media at Salvation Army NY. Encourage you, don't go anywhere. We've got more open coming up right after this.
We built a media network for you.
BronxNet TV.
Come learn in your new state-of-the-art studios at Lehman College.
At Mercy College.
And coming soon to the South Bronx in the Hub.
Inspire with your stories, culture, history.
Your Bronx on BronxNet.
Engage with us.
Connect with us at your channels and at BronxNet.tv.
Learn, engage, inspire. BronxNet TV.
From the Bronx
to the world.
BronxNet.
And welcome back to the show. The African Diaspora International Film Festival is a film festival that's actually presenting, interpreting, and also educating about the human experience of people of color all over the world in order to inspire imagination, as well as disrupt stereotypes, and then help to transform attitudes that perpetuate injustice. Over the last couple of weeks, Open Wednesday has been great in terms of highlighting several films that have actually been participating in this year's film festival. And joining us now to share more details is the co-director and co-founder of the African Diaspora International Film Festival, Diarah and Spech, and also director of Maya and Her Lover film, Nicole Sylvester, and director of A Brother's Mind, Deo Cardoso. And thank you all for being with us here on Open.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting us again. Well, we really appreciate the coverage.
Well, we appreciate having you. And honestly, as you talk about really the work that's going on in terms of trying to, you know, break down some stereotypes, introduce people from an international perspective to some great filmmakers and some great films. From your perspective, how are things going?
Well, they're going great. I want to highlight the films that we're presenting today. So we have basically, I don't know if you know, but November is the month of Black culture in Brazil. And so it's the equivalent of Black History Month. And so we're presenting several films about the Black experience in Brazil, including Marighella, which is about a revolutionary leader who fought against the dictatorship in Brazil in the late 60s. And he used urban guerrilla warfare to do so. It's an amazing film. Actually, it's just being released in Brazil right now. We also have a film about Dr. Gama, who is that's a biography drama that tells the history of the most important abolitionist leader in Brazil. And then we have A Brother's Mind, and Deo is going to tell us more about it. This is the story of a young man who is tired of being pushed around because he's Black, and he embarks in a personal rebellion. And then in terms of women filmmakers, we have a lot of great films this year. We have, of course, we showcased Betrayal of a Nation by Brandy Webb a couple of weeks ago. We also have a film called She Had a Dream, which is from Tunisia, about a young Black Tunisian woman who is tired of racism and sexism and decides to fight back by getting into politics. And then, of course, we have Maya and Her Lover, the wonderful film by Nicole Sylvester, who's going to talk to us about it as well. So we have a great lineup of films, and we are really excited to talk about the festival again with you.
Yeah, so we got Nicole here in her movies, Maya and Her Lover. And first of all, congratulations, Nicole. And tell us a little bit about the film.
Thank you so much. So Maya and Her Lover is about a woman who is about to turn 40, and she's kind of stuck in the past. You know, she regrets some decisions that she's made, and she has some issues with her upbringing that kind of affect her moving forward. When she meets this younger man and they begin a relationship, in the course of that relationship, which is very rocky, steamy, but also rocky, it forces her to kind of look at herself and her life and how she's living it, and then hopefully by the end of the film make changes for the better. So it's a coming of age story, I guess, for both of them, but wrapped up in a romance.
Yeah. All right. And I wanted to bring Dale in. And Dale, the opportunity to tell us a little bit about you. And, you know, you're coming to us all the way from Brazil. That's the benefit of virtual technology. So congratulations. I know it's a great time for you in Brazil. And enlighten us a little bit about what's going on.
Well, my film, A Brother's Mind, is also a coming-of-age film. And it's a coming-of-age film of a student, this kid he's the leader of a student council, and he's just learning, reading everything he can about Black culture, you know? So what he's really reading at the moment that the film depicts is he's reading about the Black Panthers. He knows nothing about the Black Panthers, and he's just amazed of how the Black Panthers, for example, could keep a social breakfast, free breakfast, all over the country, all over the United States without government support. So this blows his mind. He's like, whoa, we should do something here. But what happens is he's facing racism in his school. So one day, one of his colleagues calls him a monkey, and he's like, I'm not getting this anymore, man. So he's expelled from school because he like punches the guy, the offender. And the teacher sees him punching the offender, but didn't see what caused that. So he's like, I'm not moving, I'm staying here. So like moved by Rosa Parks, moved by all the civil rights movement, moved by Brazilian Black leaders and African Black leaders that I myself really admire, like Amilcar Cabral from Guinea-Bissau, Cape Verde, all those people like Marielle, which was a Black leader here. She was killed 2 years ago. And this blows his mind up, and he's like, I'm not getting this anymore. So the film is a coming-of-age film wrapped up in a revolutionary film, like those films from Africa, like The Battle of Algiers. I love that film. Like some Brazilian films from the 60s and 70s, like some American films from that era too, you know, like Spike Lee and Charles Burnell, like those are the guys, like Julie Dash, those are the people that really makes my mind and inspired me to make this film.
Yeah. And Diarah, I know that there's a great hope that, you know, for those people who watch and those people who take part from the perspective of the filmmaker, an opportunity for exposure on the person who's watching the film, a different level of exposure. Talk about what you're hoping that people take away from these from the film festival experience.
Well, I have been told that the film experience, you know, participating in the film is really like a revealing experience. It's a way for people to be exposed to stories they don't know much about, to learn, to reflect, to feel connected to, you know, stories that are close to them and at the same time far from them. So it's a moment of entertainment. It's a moment of discovery, a lot of discovery. And it's a moment of just being exposed to something that is not available in the media, is not available in the general mainstream. And that, you know, it's the one-time opportunity to really explore the Black experience from a global perspective. So participating in the festival is really a way to grow if you have an interest in developing yourself developing a Black consciousness and understanding better what it means to be a Black person in the world today and in the past.
Well, thank you all. I want to thank you guys for joining us, and ladies, I should say. I got to be gender specific these days, but I want to thank you both for sharing with us, for sharing with us as we talk about your films. Best wishes on the film, and Diarah, I know that there's an opportunity for people to be connected to the film festival, right?
Yes, through the website nyadiff.org. The information is there. Films are offered both in person and online. So everything is on the website at nyadiff.org.
All righty, and I'm going to cap that by saying you can also follow them on Facebook and Twitter at NYADIFF. Want to thank you all for joining us here on Open, and best wishes with the films as they go forward.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All righty, we are taking a quick break. Want you to stay with us. We do have some amazing guests coming up still. Open continues coming up right after this. Welcome back to the show. Duffy & Duffy is a New York-based personal injury firm that's concentrating its practice on medical malpractice and nursing home abuse. Now, the firm recently announced, after 6 years of litigation and COVID-related delays, that a jury awarded a $2.5 million verdict in the same-day hernia surgery malpractice case. And joining us to tell more details is the lead trial counselor at Duffy & Duffy, Cliff Argintar. And Cliff, good to have you.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And as I said in the lead, this case took a little while to get there, but what was the determining factor in this particular case?
Well, we had to push the cases out as hard as we could after the COVID delay. The courts were basically shut down for a year and a half over the COVID pandemic, which created a huge backlog of cases. And in order to get a case out after COVID with the backlog, you have to push, and go to the court and tell them you're ready, and the defense lawyers have to be ready, and there have to be judges available to try the case. You know, one of the things I'll say is that in order to push a case out, you actually have to be there in court. The problem was that after COVID, there was no way to really get in, you know, during COVID, there was no way to really get into the courthouse because everything was virtual, even though the courts were continuing to function. But through a virtual conference, you can't really push the cases out like you would be able to if you were there actually physically present. And so when the courts started to open back up a few months ago, we made every effort we could on behalf of our clients to request in-person conferences, go to the courthouse, tell the judges in the courts that we were ready for trial. And eventually, after we pushed and we were aggressive about it, we were able to get a few cases out. And the recent verdict is one of them. It involves medical care that happened back in 2015. So, you know, it's not uncommon for a case to be in litigation for 3 to 5 years. But once you're getting into the 6-year range, the 7-year range, eventually the court is going to say, you know, whether or not all sides are ready or not, if the plaintiff's attorney, which we are, is pushing the case hard enough, you'll eventually get your trial date. So it took a lot of effort. It took getting actually physically back into court, but we're glad we were able to do that, you know, for our client.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time talking about medical malpractice, and we hear it on TV, we watch it unfold in many different areas, but can you define what is medical malpractice for people out there watching?
Yes, medical malpractice is basically another way of saying medical negligence. And in order to prove medical negligence or medical malpractice, you need to prove that a doctor deviated from good and accepted standards of medicine, and that deviation from good and accepted standards caused injury or death. And the way you go about proving that is through medical experts, and both sides are going to have medical experts. We'll have a medical expert in these cases saying that the defendant or the defendant doctors or hospital was negligent and that they deviated from good and accepted standards of medicine. And the defendant and the defense lawyers will have their doctors defending that and disputing that and saying, no, the doctor did not deviate from good and accepted standards of medicine. But you have to be able to prove with your own experts and with the medical records and the testimony of your clients, and ultimately it'll be up to the jury to decide whether or not the doctor committed malpractice.
Yeah. And so I talked to the lead about the hernia discharge case, and give us the facts and the understanding of what went on there.
So in this particular case, my client, who was a woman in her 60s, she was scheduled for a hiatal hernia repair. And the defendant doctor, who was Dr. Alam out in Southampton, he had scheduled her for a same-day procedure, which means an ambulatory procedure, which is in and out the same day. Now, for almost all patients, this is acceptable, okay? It's within the standard of care to perform a hiatal hernia surgery laparoscopically in and out the same day. But for our client and for this particular patient, what we argued and what the jury ultimately believed is that it was not acceptable for the defendant to schedule this surgery same day ambulatory because of her risk factors. And the risk factors that our client had, Mrs. Parr, was that she had had vascular surgery 9 months before the defendant's planned hernia surgery. And because she had stents put in to two of her arteries, the celiac artery and the mesenteric artery, that caused her to be an increased risk for postoperative complications. And so what we argued at trial and through our experts and through the medical records is that because of our client's risk factors, she should have been scheduled for an overnight hospital stay. And if she had been scheduled and kept in the hospital overnight rather than discharged the same day, all of her postoperative complications could have been managed much quicker. She would have had a much greater chance for cure and survival, and she would not have passed away the next day.
Amazing. Talk to us a little bit about just that, you know, the fact of people coming forward and bringing cases forward. Are we finding in COVID more and more cases are actually rising in the area of medical malpractice, or is it just the backlog that you're contending with right now?
Well, they're definitely, you know, during COVID, there were definitely less elective procedures, okay, because all the hospitals were filled up with people with COVID patients and people with severe respiratory illness. So during the actual year and a half, we would see less elective surgery cases, less delay in diagnosis of cancer cases, et cetera. And, you know, also the governor had passed an immunity law saying that for about a year, that if any hospitals or doctors were affiliated with any COVID treatment, that you could not bring a medical malpractice claim for the treatment if it occurred during a specific COVID period. Now that has since gone away. So although there is a lull of medical malpractice cases during the heart of the COVID period, the court was already backlogged before the pandemic. And now we're seeing the same number of medical malpractice cases for the past 6 months, really, since the medical malpractice immunity statute was lifted. So there was a lull during the heat of it, but there will always be medical malpractice. I mean, there was a Johns Hopkins study, I believe from 2016, that said medical malpractice was the third leading cause of death for people in the United States of America, constituting close to 10% of all deaths. So, you know, medical malpractice is always going to be occurring. And the pandemic sort of just put a pause to new cases for a certain period of time, but they have started to pick back up again.
Yeah. Cliff, we're going to leave it there. Cliff Argintar, who is also the lead trial counsel at Duffy & Duffy. We want to thank you so much for being with us here on Open.
Thank you very much for having me.
All righty, and for more information, you can visit the website at duffylaw.com and then follow them on Twitter at DuffyLaw. We got more show coming up. Encourage you, don't go anywhere. Open continues coming up in a few. welcome back to the show. Well, Thanksgiving is the time of the year to enjoy food, family, fun, traditions, as well as some memories. And it can also be difficult for many people to stay healthy during the holidays. You know, we pick up that extra weight. Well, Thanksgiving dishes don't have to be unhealthy, and our next guest is here to provide you with some tips. I guess not you, just us, with some tips on how you can incorporate healthy eating habits for this holiday season. And joining us now to tell more details is the plant-based nutrition health coach and owner at CB Health and Wellness, Dr. Cecilia Basbus. And Dr. Cecilia, good to see you.
Hi, Daren. Good to see you too.
I was saying this is the segment where we're actually going to get a divorce, you and I, because, you know, Thanksgiving is here, you know, and I like to eat. I mean, just it's that time of the year. But honestly, for a lot of people, there is this push to want to eat healthier. So, you know, tell us, you know, Thanksgiving is here. We can eat healthy, we can eat hearty, and we can still have a good time.
Exactly. Yes. That's exactly what you should do. I mean, try to like picture. First of all, I mean, one of the things that you need to like understand is, where are you going to spend your Thanksgiving? Who's going to be cooking? What is it going to be out? Are you going to go to your like parents or your family? What is the traditional, sorry, what is the traditional thing that they eat during like holidays? Can you bring extra things? Can you bring some vegetables? Can you bring a salad? Can you bring something that is going to be a little bit more healthy than all the things that you eat generally every Thanksgiving?
Yeah. So when we have Thanksgiving, we know that sugar is a big part of what we eat and what we consume. But of course, in the health world, sugar is not our friend.
No, exactly. No. I mean, how to say this? So when you usually for Thanksgiving, there's a lot of pies. There is a lot of pumpkin pie, apple pie, things that have a lot of sugar. Try to choose one, or instead of eating a little piece, like a piece of everything, try to get like one piece of everything, but in smaller pieces. So like if you have like apple pie and pumpkin pie, just have half of it and then create one piece. So then, you know, like you can taste both of them, but in smaller amount. And the other thing is, try to go to the party or to the get together, not starving, because then if you go starving, then you're going to eat everything. And then that creates a big problem.
Yeah. Well, I got friends in the UK and we talk all the time. And one of the things they say is, listen, portions makes the difference. You know, when you look at what they eat, they have these smaller portions. And when you look at what we eat, of course, we've got a little bit more of a bigger portion.
I would say something like that. In the UK, the plate is like this. And in the United States, the plate is like this.
Right, right.
And we tend to like get like the plate up to here.
Right, that's a good meal. That's a good meal.
Yeah, supersize it.
But in all honesty, though, I think if you could delve a little bit more into this, though, talk to us about portions, because portions are one of the ways that we can eat what we want to eat, but at the same time still remain healthy.
So there is there's a drawing out there that it says like the healthy plate. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It has like, if you have a plate, you should always divide it into half. In half of it, you should have like vegetables and fruits and vegetables here. And if you're having a meal and doesn't have any fruits, have like everything that should be vegetables, right? And then the other part of the plate should be protein, right? In this case, for Thanksgiving, it's going to be turkey. So the plate should not have a huge piece of turkey and small amounts of vegetables. It should have like a small amount of turkey that is going to be here and big amount of vegetables, right? And then the other one is the grain. So if it has like corn, or if it had like well, it's not a grain, but sometimes here, like carbohydrates, vegetables are like potatoes have a small amount here, right? So the potatoes should not be in this list. It should be over here. And try to make it smaller, right? Like it should have a smaller plate. So then you don't get this food coma later on, right? So see, it fits this one better.
Right, right. Exactly. And also, I want to get into processed foods because we know that during Thanksgiving, that is the time that we do see a lot of processed foods. As a health-based nutritionist, talk to us about the benefits of plant-based versus processed foods.
Well, first of all, if you're gonna go, I would try to do the cooking first, right? Try not to get things that are already being cooked somewhere else, or it comes from a supermarket. And if you reading the labels, try to see that the things have smaller amounts of sugar, smaller amounts of fat, saturated fats. If it has more of unsaturated fats, then try to not buy it, right? And anything that you buy that it's been processed, that it comes in a box or it comes from a supermarket, if it comes from a factory, then the ingredient list should be small amounts of ingredients, not a big list. And if you cannot pronounce it, then don't buy it.
Yeah. What are some of the common mistakes people make during this time of year?
Wait for Thanksgiving to eat all the things that are in the table. I would try to eat, for example, mac and cheese one day, and then eat the turkey another day, or for the holidays, or eat a pumpkin pie some other day, but smaller amount of pieces, not everything the full day. And if you go to the party, have huge amounts of vegetables and salads and stuff. And if you know that there's not going to be any, bring your own and just taste. Do not eat all of it. And have something before. And also drink a lot of water. Have lemonade. Water, not alcohol, right? Try to get the water part more than the alcohol part more. That's another thing. Because the carbohydrates, the fats, the animal fat products, plus the alcohol and the sugar, that's like a ticking bomb.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a very interesting holiday for a lot of people. We're going to see how people fare out, but thank you for the healthy tips, and hopefully somebody can be able to take advantage of that, not just this holiday, but really after the holiday. Dr. Cecilia Basbus, as always, we divorced at the beginning of the segment, but we got back together. We're good now, so I just want to let you know. Thank you. Thanks for being
here. And the other thing, if you don't know what to cook, I'm going to be giving on the 24th of November a Zoom cooking class where I'm going to be teaching how to do, for example, a vegan meatloaf, and then a cranberry sauce, and then also mushrooms, gravy sauce, and all that you can do it at night of the 24th because it's at 7, and then you can have it ready for the 25th.
All right. Well, good. Well, hopefully people will take advantage of that and want to let people know if you want to find out more then some, go please visit the website at cbhealthandwellness.com. There you can find out about the upcoming classes as well as the information that you can have to have a more healthier lifestyle when it comes to eating, nutrition, and life. Want to let you know that we've come to the end of our show today. Want to thank all of our guests for joining us, and most of all, you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recable cast on BronxNet's Channel 67. If you have Verizon Files, that'll be Channel 2133, or anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. Now, we also want to give a special shout out to our viewers on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, as Open is being broadcast live simultaneously on the MNN channel. And if you're desiring a brand new fresh episode of Open, well, guess what? Come back on Friday morning. My girl Rena Valentine brings you the best of arts and entertainment, recapping the Thanksgiving holiday and bringing you all that you need to know with Friday Open. I am Daren Jaime for the Wednesday Open show, saying take care, God bless, and yes, while this show overlaps into Thanksgiving, have a very, very happy and a safe and a blessed Thanksgiving. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.